Hey investors, Bradley here from Watson Estates, and I'm so glad you could join us. You came at the right time. Today we have none other than Richard Robbins on our show. We are number one on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts for Toronto real estate. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, a like, and we're going to continue to put out fantastic content. And every now and again, we get awesome guests. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy. He's the co-founder and CEO of one of North America's top real estate training and coaching organizations called RRI, Richard Robbins International. They have over 10,000 coaching grads and over 300,000 real estate professionals who have attended their conferences. And I am one of them. An international speaker, author, and business coach, Richard Robbins' organization is designed to share the most advanced real estate business building systems with the world. He's armed with one goal, and that is to help real estate agents build a business and a life they love. He's an amazing interview and is he has a wealth of information to share with you guys today. So I'm so thrilled to have him on the show. Enjoy. Hi, Richard. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy guy.
Bradley, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, my friend.
I'm so thrilled to have you because I know we have a lot of overlap in our audience on the content you're putting online is just phenomenal. And maybe for some of our guests, the few and far between that have never heard about you, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Richard Robbins International and some of the cool stuff you're doing over there.
Okay, well, to give you a very quick background, I started selling real estate in Peterborough, Ontario. I was 24 years old. 27, I moved to Markham, Ontario, where I actually still live today. And I opened a real estate company, and I had that real estate company basically from 1988 to 1996. I don't know if you remember the market in 1988, but early 1989, it just died. Somebody turned the tap off. So that was an interesting time. And then I sold my company in 1996, and I was planning on starting this company, Richard Robbins International, but I continued to sell because the company I sold it to wanted me to stay for a little while because they didn't want my agents leaving, that sort of thing. So I sort of dabbled for a little while for a couple of years. And then in 1998, we officially opened Richard Robbins International. So it's been a great ride. So basically we do one-on-one coaching with real estate sales professionals and brokers. We have a number of trainers actually that do a lot of speaking as well. I do a lot of keynoting. And we generally, it's COVID right now, so this is interesting times. We generally do 2 large public events per year that we get 1,000 to 1,500 people come out to. We do one in Vancouver, we do one in Toronto. We used to do them all through the US, and we used to do one in South Africa every year. But as I'm getting older, I just don't quite have the energy I used to have. So we toned it back a little bit. So that's really what we do.
I was going to say 1988. I wasn't even born yet.
That's right.
That's just to make matters worse for you.
Yeah, well, I got licensed
I've seen it, man. The coaching you guys have and you're putting out is excellent. And there's a lot of realtors that follow you. And so the cool thing about having you as a guest is instead of necessarily listening directly to realtors, which people are doing as well, they can listen to the guy that's talking to the realtors. So this is awesome. So thanks again for joining us. I'm just thinking, so I want to dive into various topics. Let's kind of start off with the market, which is obviously a hot topic. I've had a lot of people following us saying, you know what, it's such a hot topic. There's so many conversations, and oftentimes it's not happening. There's not enough information going out to keep up with demand. So what is the message that you're passing to the RRI membership? And maybe it's getting through, maybe it's not. Maybe if we hear it directly from you, what are some of the things relating to our market, that Toronto specifically, that you're kind of watching?
Well, the market right now obviously is very hot. And when I say hot, there's a couple factors we've got to look at in a marketplace. Everybody talks about, well, what's going on with prices? Well, prices are just based on supply and demand, right? So obviously we're seeing prices going up right now in pretty well all property types. Generally speaking, they're going up right now. If you look at sales, our sales are a little bit off year to date over year to date of last year. And a lot of people don't know that. They think the market's really hot, which means there's tons and tons of sales, but our sales are actually a little bit off. And depending on the market, let's say somewhere between 15 and 22% year to date compared to the same period last year. And then, so that's a second thing you watch, is the actual number of sales. From a sales professional standpoint, what that means is the pie is smaller. It means there's less opportunities available for the sales professional. But from the public's perspective, that's a good thing because that means we have very little supply and we have very strong demand. So yes, we have less sales, but we also have less inventory. Our supply and demand is very, very low, operating with 2 to 3 months of inventory in most marketplaces, which means your prices are rising because your balanced market starts around 4 to 6 months of inventory, right? So the three things that I tell everybody to watch is the number of sales compared to the previous month or the previous year, the prices, which way are prices moving, and then months of inventory or supply and demand will determine the prices. So right now the market's very strong. Now saying that, what's interesting, we talked with the condo market, and I'm talking Toronto proper now, is that affordable condos, let's say $600,000 are doing very, very well. But what's interesting, if you really study the market, the high-end condos are sitting a little longer right now. And we're seeing a lot more activity, very strong activity in detached overall, which is, sort of making a lot of sense. So we're in a very interesting market, Bradley, just to look at the market. And it's, because sales obviously the last couple of weeks of March were really down. April was really down. May started to pick up. June became busy. July's been crazy. You know what I mean? So it's just weird times.
For some of the audience members that are listening and saying, oh my goodness, this Richard guy is just saying the same thing that Bradley says, it's because I listen to experts like you. And this is an incredible parallel. And what I really like is you talk to salespeople. So I love that point that not many people make is oftentimes you think, oh, if you do think sales are down, you think, oh, well, that's a problem for everyone else. Not necessarily. Who it's a problem for is actually the realtors. And so to say, you know what, you realtors, you're always selling, happy prices go up, you're in this perpetual increasing price environment. That's not where we make our money. We make our money by staying competitive when sales are down, and that is the climate right now. So voices like yours are more important than ever. So if you were to look at like some of the headlines, some of the big things coming down the pipes for you, what are some of the main things you're kind of watching for as we kind of round out 2020?
Well, it's interesting because there's really three things, if we're talking real estate specific here, which I know we are, there's three things that affect the real estate market, right? First of all, immigration will affect the real estate market. You bring new people into the country, what do we need? We need housing. The second thing are going to be interest rates. They're going to affect the real estate market. And then the third thing is unemployment. So they're the three factors that will affect. And it was interesting because I had a virtual event about 2 months ago, I think, and I had Benjamin Tall on. He is one of the chief economists with CIBC. And we were talking about the overall market. And he said, yeah, it's busy right now because there's really no inventory. So we have an inventory problem. We don't have as much of a sales problem right now as we do have an inventory problem. And that's why prices are continuing to rise. But in some ways, you've got to look at it and you got to say, well, our economy is being falsely held up right now. You think about the amount of money the government is spending. No, hundreds of billions of dollars they're putting into the market right now. You've got people that don't have to make their mortgage payments because they can defer their mortgage payments. You've got, a lot of people getting $2,000 a month. A lot of businesses that qualify to get 75% of the salaries. And we can go on about the amount of money that's being made available. So I don't think we've seen the impact of COVID yet. I really don't. So my feeling is, whether it's late this year or early next year, is we're going to start to have an impact. And the impact, I really think, is we're going to start to see a lot of inventory because I think some people are going to start to sell because right now, I don't know what unemployment is. Let's guess. I think it's 13.5% roughly. Right?
Yeah, I think it was like 12% or something come down.
Yeah.
In that
range. So it's double digit.
So
we're sitting at double digit unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
When we started all this, we were sort of, 5%, roughly 5.5%. Yeah. And like 5% to me is zero. Because 5% of the people don't want to work anyway, right? So like I always say that 5% is almost like zero. So where's it going to balance out? Well, it's probably, I don't know. So balance out at 8.5%, 9%. We're going to have a lot of small businesses that aren't going to survive, right? There's going to be some companies won't be able to bring everybody back. So there's an impact there, which means some people are going to have to sell or, they're going to be put in a position where the banks are going to have to sell their homes. I think inventory is going to start to rise a little bit. And that could happen either later this fall, maybe in the fourth quarter, or, maybe into next year. So I think, yeah, it's going to be a little tough for a little while, but I do think long-term, I'm not worried about Canada's real estate market at all.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm really not.
Love it.
You know, people say, when should I buy? I said, when you can afford to buy.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So for people, I guess it depends on the buyer, of course, because everyone's circumstances are different. And it obviously depends by housing segment. There's so many factors that go into it. But generally speaking, would you say in this climate for investors in this market, should you be buying, selling, or waiting and seeing? What would you how would you put that out?
Well, if you're playing the long game, I don't think it matters when you buy, right?
Right.
Like if I'm going to play, like to me, real estate is always a long game. I'm never been a speculator, never will be a speculator, because that to me is like gambling, right? And I'm just not a big gambler. I just look at it and say, you study really successful people, they've always played the long game. That's what they do. They buy stocks, they hold, right? They buy real estate, they hold. So I look at it and say, hey, if you're playing the long game, buy. Interest rates can't get much better, in all fairness. And they're probably not going to go anywhere for at least a couple of years. We're going to have low interest rates for a little while. Right now, prices are rising. Will they continue to rise? I don't know. Like, I tend to think maybe they'll slow down, maybe soften, but how much? What's the difference, right? So if you're going to buy, like, get in the market as soon as you can get in the market.
I'm generally an optimistic guy, and optimism not meaning the market's always going up, by the way. And we're hearing in this conversation, again, very similar thinking, but you make my optimism look not that contagious. and I love it. I admire that about you. And you're involved not just in Toronto, but across the country. In fact, as I'm learning, across the world. So if we were to just kind of go outside a little bit, let's look at Canada. What are some of the markets, the investment opportunities across the country that kind of are most interesting to RRI, and why?
Well, if you look at the most heated market in Canada, it's probably Ottawa. Like Ottawa, the market's crazy, right? It's way busier. Like when I say, I shouldn't say busier, okay? Prices are going up faster, and there's less months of inventory in Ottawa than any city in Canada that I know of anyway. The East Coast, generally speaking, especially Halifax, Montreal, have done very, very well. And then, Vancouver's recovered nicely. And quite honestly, Alberta and Saskatchewan, Manitoba, even with oil prices, right now their markets are decent. Like Calgary and Edmonton, believe it or not, in affordable detached housing, you're getting multiple offers. Who would have thought that? $40 a barrel oil, right? And they're getting multiple offers on affordable detached. Now, condo market's not good out there. It's very, very weak out there. The only great condo market's probably Vancouver, Toronto, and Ottawa. But I'll tell you what I see happening. And it's already happening. So we got a lot of clients that live in, like, I'm talking GTA, like in Barrie, Cobourg, places like that. And I know you're up in Caledon. Like, we're seeing a lot of movement out that way. Because I think through COVID, a lot of people have discovered they don't necessarily have to live in Toronto anymore, because maybe they can work virtually. And they're saying, well, if I can work virtually, or I only have to go to the office 1 or 2 days a week, then guess what? Why can't I live in, the Peterboroughs of the world, the Cobourgs, the Port Hopes, the Barries, the Niagara Falls, it goes on and on. So I tend to think, and I even know myself, I'm looking at buying some real estate right now in my hometown of Peterborough, because I think these cities, even though they're already in decent shape, but I think they're going to continue to be really strong. I really do.
Even beyond the heat of the moment, you think that's a longer term?
Yeah, because see, what's interesting about the world is that when something like this takes place, so think about technology. Technology has advanced in 4 months, which probably would have taken us 5 to 10 years before.
Yeah.
Who was comfortable doing all these Zoom dinners, Zoom calls, Zoom parties, right? And this doesn't go away just because COVID cleans out. We're still going to live in more of a virtual world, because why wouldn't we, if it's more effective and more efficient for us to do meetings? So think about all these workers downtown Toronto that all of a sudden, through the virtual, world that we've been introduced to, realize that they can do effective meetings. They can have great one-on-ones. They don't have to be in person. So let's say you were running an organization that had 200 people, and you realize that, I can get rid of half my space, and I can have 100 people work from home. Well, those people working from home that now might live in Toronto, why do they want to stay in Toronto? So the company can reduce their overhead. The employees can get to work from home, which many of them might discover they would rather do that, which means they can move and cash out in Toronto, let's say, or any big city for that matter, and they can, maybe buy something for half the price.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see, that happening a lot. I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot more of that. Toronto's going to be fine. I'm not saying that, Toronto's going to become a ghost town. That is absolutely not the case. Toronto is a world-class city, will remain that way and continue to do well. But I do think you're going to see a lot of people start to move further out, an hour and a half, 2 hours, because they can, because they don't have to go to work every day.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, what are some of the GTA cities that kind of pop out to you? You just named a few of them. Is there any others that you're kind of like, you know what, I can see that trend continuing in that marketplace?
Sure. I just get a map out and draw 1 hour to 1 hour and 30 minutes around the whole GTA, and maybe even further than that. Yeah. Right? Think about this, if you like the lakes up in the Kawarthas, or you like the lakes up in the Muskoka, like, think about it. You technically could now actually live up there, especially for the aging population. Mm-hmm. Maybe not for the young people like yourself, right? But you take somebody, I'm 59 years old and I'm not planning to go anywhere because I like where I live and all that sort of thing. But if I worked for somebody else and all of a sudden I could go live at my cottage, maybe put an addition on my cottage.
And the cottage country offers right now are absurd.
I know, that's what I mean.
Likens to Toronto was a couple of years ago. It's crazy.
My brother and I had a conversation this morning, and he said, Rich, let's start buying some cottages because, you can rent them for $3,500, $5,000 a week.
You can't go anywhere else. You can't, people camping close.
Right. So I see these as opportunities, and that's some of the stuff I'm looking at right now, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so there's some of the opportunities. Is there any other, is there any concerns you'd say in the market based on that? Like areas you'd be like a bit of a red flag, just keep your eye out going into, like we talked about Q4 as it softens. Do you see that happening in any specific areas or?
I think it'll just be, a bit of an overall thing if it happens. It'll become more of a national issue, I think, more than a regional issue. But again, when I say, could there be a little bit of a softening? I think, that's definitely possible, because I don't know how the government can spend that much money and hold up economy and then all of a sudden it stops.
Yeah.
Especially not everybody's going back to work. Not every business is going to survive, right? Is immigration going to be as high with COVID? Probably not right away. We might get back to that. However, saying that, the other interesting thing is we'll probably have a lot more Canadians move back home, because there's a lot of Canadians living in China right now.
Yes, I was going to say China. Yes.
That they could come back home.
Hong Kong specifically, Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong specifically. Plus, maybe we won't lose as the brain drain won't be as bad, because you never know. A lot of people might be able to work for American firms, but still live in Canada. So there's a lot of variables, right? Absolutely. That probably is way above my pay grade.
Okay, so your pay grade is for realtors, right? So you're the go-to for many top performing agents across our city. How would you say that COVID, we touched on it briefly, how would you say COVID is affecting those guys that are probably listening too? What are some of the things that are most impacting them that they could relate to that maybe the general public doesn't realize, or how has it changed things for them?
Well, I think the first thing that's changed is safety, right? The way all have to be very conscious. I always say that the number one thing is let's be a part of the problem, or let's be a part of the solution, not the problem. So let's make sure that everything we do as an industry, we're doing it in a very, very safe way. And I find that, most realtors are. The second thing we're seeing is the use of technology, which is such a beautiful thing. And it's sort of what I said before, technology's advanced in a few months, which probably would have taken us many years before. I just got off the phone with one of our top clients. He's actually down in Maryland in the US, and all of his listing presentations are now done by Zoom. Like 100% of his, and he does like 5 to 6 a week. Like he's got a very large business and a very large team. And he said 100%. So what he's doing is he's going over, we're in the mask, right? We're in the booties, we're in the gloves, doing a quick inspection of the home, takes him 15 minutes. And then at that time, he schedules a Zoom appointment and then actually does the listing presentation. And its conversion rate on listing presentations is slightly higher than it was in person. Now, I don't understand that. I think that's just a, sort of a timing thing. So it hasn't affected his conversion. So he's doing a really good job. So I see that we now have the ability as an industry to make lives easier for buyers and sellers. Another example would be, as a realtor, if you're showing property, would it not make sense, using 3D, using iGuide, using Matterport, all the great technologies we have available to us to sit in the office with your clients, safely social distancing, of course, and do tours of all of the potential homes, and then narrow it down to maybe 2, and only physically go out and look at 2 homes. Now think about what that does. It's better for the client because you're not wasting as much of the client's time. And it's better for the sellers because we're not having these unqualified showings, like especially when COVID is a bit of an issue. Like the opportunities that this has created, I think, for all of us to do a better job for our clients is really quite amazing. The challenge is not everybody's taking advantage of that. Mm. The great agents are doubling down right now on understanding technology. So we're sitting here, Bradley, we're face to face because we're actually doing this on Zoom. Well, I know so many people, they don't want to get in front of a camera. Oh, well, I don't like video. I don't like being on camera. And I keep saying, well, you better get over that really fast. I don't care what you got to do. Wake up in the morning and do what I call eye practice. Get on your iPad and practice doing videos and practice, and make sure you got the right lighting. Make sure you got the right positioning of the camera and all those sort of things. Because I think the great agents out there are figuring out this is a new world, and they don't want to go back to the old one. Yes, there's going to be a hybrid. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there won't be a hybrid, but hey, we can do such a better job for our clients using technology, and we can make their life so much better and so less disruptive, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm noticing as well, like the number of showings that are coming through, I see agents obviously doing a better job. It seems to me that the showings to offer ratio, as I'm kind of tracking it in my own book of business, is definitely improving by several fold, like a lot better. Great. We're getting way more offers from what we're having come through the home, which my clients appreciate because they don't want that many people running through the house. So is there any other kind of thoughts you'd say for an agent today that's sitting and doesn't want to go on that eye time? What are some of the things you could do or they could do to really shine and to come out on the other side of COVID as a top performing agent?
Well, I think we've all heard the saying, content is king, right? And, the great agents, what the great agents do well is marketing. Like what separates a great agent from an average agent is their ability to be great marketers, right? Like our company, I consider us very decent marketers. Could we be better? Sure, we could be a lot better, but we're decent marketers. That's how we built a business. So I look at it and I say, so what I suggest to any agents that want to turn it up a little bit is they've got to become way better marketers. So then you say, well, I got to become a better marketer. And to some people, marketing is sort of a dirty word, but it shouldn't be. Marketing is just a form of communicating, okay, to a large group of people. So then what do you need to do to become a better marketer? Well, you got to figure out how to get people's attention, because attention is what I call the new currency. Everybody today is trying to get everybody's attention. Like I got my phone sitting in front of me, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, right? FaceTime.
I get you on TikTok.
TikTok, like I get it. I'm not on TikTok, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's trying to get my attention. And that's what this is all about. Because unless you can get my attention, you can't sell me anything. So back to marketing, if attention is a new currency, that every marketing piece that you put out has to be of value to who? The client, not the agent. And what I see with a lot of agents is most of their marketing is about them. Like right. By the first week of every month, all I see all over Instagram is, oh, I was number one. Oh, I was number 3 out of, X number of agents. And every time I see that, it almost saddens me, because I'm thinking to myself, really? That's not about your clients. So the greatest thing that we all can do is make sure that whether it's something written or whether you create a video, or even if you're doing geographical farming or with all of the people you've done business with in the past, you've got a newsletter that goes out. So make sure that what you do is you bring value to them, because when you bring value to them, you get their what? You get their attention, and attention is the new currency. So make sure that your marketing is designed so that it's going to bring value to the client, because when you bring value to the client, you get their attention. And when you get their attention, then, okay, you can try to sell something to somebody.
I love that. And you have the attention of agents across the country because you guys are putting excellent content as well. Did you have any final thoughts or things you wanted to kind of plug, some of the things you guys are doing before we wrap up?
Well, because we're not going to do an in-person event this fall. Normally in Toronto, we'd be doing our event in November, but we're going to do a virtual event. So we're actually just confirmed it all yesterday. We did our first virtual Masters Academy just about a month ago. So we're going to do our second one. And when I say this isn't some pumped up Zoom call. This is like in a studio, tons of, screens. It's really quite an event. We bring in top rate speakers. So we're really excited about that. So for those that they can go to our website, they can sign up to our email newsletter, they can follow us on all the social media sites. And yeah, if they're interested, we'd love to have them out to that. Or if they want to know more about our coaching program, just go to our website. We'd love to help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Richard. I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy. Go out there and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Take care.